if I complimented it, so I'm complimenting it because it's Fathomless themed. It's very nice. So thank you. She tried really. She got on that. So a few weeks ago, I did this talk at a school, and I got introduced to Jackson Pearce, the author of Fathomless, which sounds like a really good book. Like, it sounds like a great book. It doesn't sound like the same book exactly, but I kind of like Fathomless, a novel. It sounds really good, but no, Fathomless. And so it's the third book in my fairy tale series. The first one was Sisters Red. It's a retelling of Little Riding Hood. The second one is Sweetly. It's a retelling of Hansel and Gretel. And this one is a retelling of Little Mermaid. So for those of you that are big fairy tale fans in the audience, everybody's like, yeah! Fairy tale! Just me, actually. But for those of you that are big fairy tale fans, the first two are actually retellings of Grimm Brothers fairy tales. And this one is a retelling of a Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And so this was a very challenging book to write for 3 reasons, which I will now tell you about. As the author of Fathomless, I'm authorized to do that. The thing about those Grimm stories, I don't want to say that it was easy necessarily to retell those, but the nice sort of perk to those is that there are so many versions of them. Like, there are so many versions of Red Riding Hood. It is ridiculous. There's one where, the wolf gets, cut with an axe. They fill a stomach with stones. They do just, who knows what they do. There's one version, it's actually one of my favorites, where Little Red Riding Hood is in the house with the wolf and the grandmother, dressed up. And she needs to get out to, run away. And so she says she has to pee. And the wolf is like, yeah. You gotta go. You gotta pee. And she's like, all right, I'll be right back. And she comes back with an axe. And then there's a million versions of Hansel and Gretel as well. There are so many, and because there are so many versions, it's kind of relatively easy to pick and choose what you want to sort of create a new story. But the thing about The Little Mermaid is there's only one version. There's one. You got Hans Christian Andersen's version, and that's the only one, kind of. Because while that is the only actual technically correct version of there's a baby that's happy. I'm talking about Fathomless. There's only one technically correct version of The Little Mermaid, but everybody knows the Disney version instead, because everyone here has seen it at least 3 or 4 times, correct? One of these audiences is going to go no, and I'm going to be like, well, you guys suck. Don't know what's wrong with you exactly. So to sort of explain the differences, I'm actually going to go over the Disney version for those of you that have not seen it recently. I have. And then I'm going to talk about the actual Hans Christian Andersen version. So in the Disney version, we have Ariel, daughter of Triton. She has a bunch of mer sisters, all that have different colored hair, which leaves me with a lot of questions about mer genetics and the mer queen's fidelity. Just saying. She really wants to be where the people are, so she consults with a crab, and he's like, no, don't go up there, he's a Jamaican crab. No, don't go up there, it's a bad idea. And she's like, peace out, crab. And she goes to the surface, and she sees, Prince Eric, and he's on a boat dancing around with a dog, which is how you know he's a winner. Sheepdog. And then a storm hits, and he's thrown off the boat, and she's like, I can't have this happen. So she dives after him, and Ariel grabs Prince Eric, and she swims to shore, and she puts him on the shore, and she sings strangely close to his face, like some personal boundary issues or something. And she sings strangely close to his face, and then, she knows something's starting right now. If you'll recall, there's a scene with the rock where she's standing on it, sitting on it. And she goes back under the sea. She goes to the sea witch, and she says, sea witch, I must be with this boy. He's the love of my life. And Ursula, the sea witch, says, in the best Disney song ever, the best villain song that has ever been written. It's fantastic, and I sing it a lot in my car. And it scares my dog. In the very best song, she makes a deal, basically. The deal is that she will give Ariel legs for 3 days, and in exchange, she wants Ariel's voice. Now, after 3 days, if the prince has not kissed Ariel, then she's going to... It's a very scary story. After 3 days, if the prince has not kissed Ariel, then she'll become a mermaid again, and you'll be mine. I don't really know what she planned exactly. That's never really spelled out necessarily. Maybe she had some like aquatic house cleaning that needed to be done. But either way, she'll be hers after 3 days if there's no kid. So Ariel goes to shore, and they dance around for a while with the prince and everything, and it's all very, very lovely and romantic. And then the sea witch is not such a fan of the way this is happening. And so she turns into an evil brunette named Vanessa. And she steals the prince away, and of course Ariel and her pals, they break up the wedding, and shenanigans ensue, and the prince drives the boat into the sea witch's stomach. And that's the end. But in this grand Disney tradition, of course, they live very happily ever after. And in this grand Disney tradition, they made 2 sequels, each of which is worse than the previous one. Has anybody seen those? Because I've seen both of them. They're terrible. Yeah. So if you haven't seen it, do not let it wreck. It will destroy you. You will watch it and you're like, I'm so sad now about my life. Yeah. Don't do it. So, Disney version, right? The Hans Christian Andersen version, quite a bit different. So there's a point where we're going to be the same up to a moment, and then it's going to suddenly take a very sharp turn for the depressing. So Hans Christian Andersen version, we have the Little Mermaid. She doesn't have a name in this one, as they often do not in fairy tales. She's under the sea. She's got her whole mess of mer sisters in. She really wants to go to the surface. She's obsessed with sort of humans, and she wants to go to the surface. And when she turns 15, she gets to go to the surface. And while she's on the surface, she sees the prince on the boat, and she's like, I gotta get with that. And the prince, in a storm, because he is the worst sailor ever, apparently, he flies off the boat and he falls into the water, and this is where we take that turn I mentioned, the depressing. He falls in the water. The Little Mermaid goes and she grabs him and she swims to shore and she puts him on the shore, and instead of creepily singing over him, she swims away and like hides behind a rock so she can watch and make sure everything works out and that he gets rescued. So she's watching from behind this rock and she sees this temple that's like near the beach, Ocean Temple. Hans Christian Andersen, good mark. And so this girl from the temple, this temple girl, she comes down. And she's the one that actually, like, takes the prince and takes him, I guess, to an ancient mythical hospital or something. And so the prince never sees the Little Mermaid. Like, he never even knows she exists. All he sees is this temple girl who he assumes saved his life. So while all that is happening, the Little Mermaid is back under the water. She goes to the sea witch, who is in this one not an octopus. She goes to the sea witch, there's no song, and she says, sea witch. Yeah. And the sea witch is like, yeah, you gotta get with that. So, the sea witch is like, I've got a solution for you here. I've got this potion that I'm going to give you. Now, when you drink this potion, it's going to feel like a sword is passing through you. And when you have feet and when you get on land and when you walk, it's going to feel like a knife is going through that soft part of your foot. And you're going to bleed, like, excessively as you walk about. And the Little Mermaid's like, yeah, that seems like a reasonable bargain. Because she needs some form of therapy. And so she drinks the potion and the sword and the blood, and she goes to the shore. And she can't speak in this one either, that is the same. She goes to the shore, and I guess the prince doesn't notice the trail of blood. Because he has a great time with her, and even though it hurts her so badly, he does a lot of dancing, or she does a lot of dancing and everything because it makes him so happy. And again, I don't know how he does it. We already established he wasn't the brightest crayon in the box with the boat falling off things. But, so after a few days, though, things sort of, you know, she's sort of, how's it going, Prince? Of course, you can't say that, so I guess you just like, I practiced that in the mirror at home. I was like, no, I can't. And the prince says, you're great. You're so great. You're so cute. I like you so much, but I'm in love with that chick from the temple, the one that saved my life. And the Little Mermaid is very sad about this, and he gets married to the girl from the temple, who turns out to be a princess from a neighboring country, so it's all very on the royal up and up. And then the Little Mermaid turns into sea foam and dies. The end. That's the whole story.
Yeah.
Now, later, Hans Christian Andersen realized this was the most depressing story in the universe. And so he wrote an alternate ending, which I think is cheating. I'm not allowed to do that, but he's allowed to do that, I guess. He wrote an alternate ending in which the Little Mermaid, she actually doesn't die. The spirits of the air swoop down and and they tell her, like, you know, we're sorry you lost the prince and all, but, you know, if you come with us, you can do some good deeds, and eventually you'll get a soul and go to heaven. So it's like a consolation, like, you know, some charity work for a while, and then you'll get to go to heaven alone. Enjoy. And that was a better ending. That was the nice ending. So, I totally lost my train of thought. Because I looked at the bracelet, and I thought, did I remember to tell you? Because you're standing right there, and I was like, oh, bracelet. It's got an anchor on it. C is the thing. There's a lot of time on this bracelet.
Oh, I have a bracelet.
Yeah. Still nice. So anyhow, the reason I wanted to retell The Little Mermaid was because I actually always felt really bad for the Temple Princess, because this is her love story. Like, it's a really sweet romantic love story. She's in a temple, she sees a dude on the beach, she runs down, oh, hello, oh, you're the prince, I'm the princess, let's get married. If anything, the mermaid was the homewrecker that showed up with her bloody feet and her fishy tail and, like, just messed with everyone's life. She didn't do anything wrong. And she gets villainized, and if you only know the Disney version, when you think the other girl, you think of, you know, how the Little Mermaid, you don't think of this other girl, that she's just another girl. That's all there is to it. She's just another girl. The prince didn't love the Little Mermaid. And so I really wanted to tell her story. And so Fathomless is actually told from 2.5 points of view. I won't give away the 0.5 because it's kind of a spoiler. But one of them is Celia, who is the simple princess, essentially. And the other one is Lo, who is the Little Mermaid. Give or take a little bit. So that's part one of why this was hard to write. We're on to part two now. It's a little bit easier, that one. That was the hard one. Now we're on to, they go in descending order. So, part two of why this was difficult to write is I wanted to use a lot of sort of non-Little Mermaid lore, because there's a lot of sort of ocean girl lore, and we've got sirens, we've got selkies, and almost every, there's almost one in sort of every different culture. They have their own water girl lore of some sort. And so I pulled from a lot of different things, but one thing that I wanted to sort of make sure that I had is I wanted her to have sort of a sense of melancholy. I didn't want her to be all good or all evil. And so the whole mythology that I've built is my mermaids, they're not really mermaids, but my mermaidy people, they can get a soul if they drown a human. They convince a human to love them and they drown him. Sorry, I was like baby again. I'm afraid of babies. Those of you that know me well, you know I'm not kidding. I'm afraid of babies. Make me nervous. Anyhow, what was I talking about? Drowning people. Okay. Why did in the front? So they have these sort of dark pasts and dark histories, and they also, most of them were human at some point, and they don't remember what happened to make them these mer people. They just know that something happened. They're always trying to remember their human lives. They're always trying to remember what they used to be. And they have this really great sense of melancholy about them. But it's very difficult to make someone sad when they don't remember why they're sad. But I've worked it out, in part because I've actually spent a lot of my life thinking about feelings, but not in that nice, happy way always. I really am interested in writing sort of feelings and writing attitudes and moods and almost like I know when I write a book how I want you to feel when the book is done. And so this was even when I was very, very small, this was a thing that I did. When I was very, very small, I remember I had Ranger Rick magazine. Did anybody else have that? Elizabeth, you had to have Ranger Rick. Yeah, okay. And I remember this one actually had a raccoon on the cover. And it had a section on poetry in the middle, because I guess Ranger Rick was branching out a little bit. And so there was a section on how to write poetry. And it suggested that if you don't know what to write about, you pick a color. And then you write about how that color makes you feel. And I was like, because I was an arrogant child. No. Because I was an arrogant child, I was like, I'm not going to do like yellow and happy or pink and romantic. I'm going to do sad. I'm going to do brown and sad. And so I wrote a poem about being sad and about the color brown. I'm going to recite it for you now. You guys are already laughing at my poem? All right. Don't laugh at my poem. You're wearing brown. All right, ready? Sadness is the color brown. It feels like an old town. It looks like a broken door. I do not want it anymore. talk about something, and I was like, about sadness. Like Mother Brown, you know. She's very concerned about it. And so I was always very interested in that. So writing this book, I mean, it was a very interesting experience trying to create those emotions when they actually just don't remember what it is. If you think about it, and I try not to fall too far into this trap, but if you're really depressed, you see the world in a very different way. Like, if you're really depressed and a happy song, like if Call Me Maybe comes on the radio when you're pissed off, you're like, no! I want to listen to emo songs. And so it was very, very interesting. Sad. I'm going to put that in a booklet. The third thing in my descending order was, this is the third in a series. Now, they're companion books. They're not direct sequels. But it's still the third in the series, and so I've been building this universe that they're all set in. And by the time I got to the third one, I had to remember all of the rules from the previous two, which is a lot harder than it sounds. Now, I know some authors, they get up here and they tell you, like, yeah, I had it all figured out. I had the whole, I knew what I was doing. They're lying to you. I don't care what they say. They are all lying to you, because I talk to them in private and they admit these things.
Back to customer service line, please.
I knew the idea. I knew some of the ideas. I knew sort of what I was getting at. But like, there is one line in Sweetly, one line that I added in at the end of revision, and it completely changed the plot. Fathomless. That's Fathomless. It totally. I mean, I had to almost rewrite from the very, very beginning in order to make this book work, all because of this one stupid line I just had to put in there at the very, very last minute. And so building within that world turned out to be a challenge. In a lot of ways, it's a lot of fun, though. It's really embarrassing when I have to get on Twitter and ask something, because I'm like, I don't have time to look it up. Does anybody remember the name of the character in the very first scene in Sister's Red? Oh, you do? Okay. Because people will remember right off the top of their head, and I'm very impressed. They really are. They're messing with my head. Okay, so I want to do questions, and I have these things that my publisher sent me, because I'm cheap and these are nice, I want to make them. So if you didn't know, I got new covers for these books. They all have new covers, which I think most of you know. And so they made these things, and it's 3 bookmarks in one. And I know, right? People on Twitter will cut you for this. You want like 100 Twitter followers tonight? And then you ask a question. So anyway, does anybody have any questions I can answer? Yes. How do you decide what fairy tale? I spin the wheel of fairy tales. No, there are certain fairy tales that I feel like, this is so cheesy, I'm going to say speak to me. There are certain fairy tales that speak to me. Don't laugh at me, Katie. But there really are. There are some fairy tales, like Red Riding Hood has always been a fairy tale that I just really, really love, in part because I wanted to know what happened after she got out of the house, after she had to pee, and she came back. I wanted to know what happened after that. The Little Mermaid, I love the Disney version, okay? I'm not down on the Disney version. When I do school visits, I have to say that a lot, because they will kill me when they're sick. Like the middle schoolers, they're like, what do you mean? You don't like it? They also, sometimes when I tell them the original fairy tale, they have this like, I just canceled Christmas. What did you tell us that? The original one, she dies, man. She's dead. They're so sad. But there are some that I find that I attach to more, and I don't really necessarily know why that is. I will say they typically are the longer ones that have a little bit more plot going on, because there are some fairy tales that it's like, you know, one time a girl saw a robber and then he shot her. And that's deep. That's sad. Oh, that's easier. You're on Twitter with that. Does anybody else have any questions? Yes.
Which one has been your favorite, or do you have a favorite out of the story?
Do I have a favorite? I am always, out of all my books, or out of the fairy tale? Out of the fairy tale, so I've got 3. I am always partial to Sister's Red, because Sister's Red was the book that allowed me to become a full-time writer, and so I'm a little bit partial. It has sister in the word, so, you know. Yeah. When she found out I dedicated it to her, she cried.
I know this story.
Seriously, she cared. She was like all misty-eyed. It says sister in the title. Like, I was like, I thought you knew. Everybody knew. Everyone knew. She didn't know. It was like amazing. I mean, thanks for what was the question? Favorite. Got distracted. But I really do like Fathomless. Fathomless is a very different type of story than the other ones. I think that it's a much more introspective story. In Sisterhood, there's a lot of action. They're like cutting up werewolves left and right with axes, as one does. In this one, there's a lot of like thinking and reflecting. And I don't mean that in a boring way, because it's usually thinking about whether or not they're going to drown someone. but there's a lot more. It's a much more introspective book. I got a bunch of these, man, in the back right there behind you. Then you can help me.
Is your next project going to be another fairy tale retelling or something different?
Yes. There is absolutely zero chance I was working on this 4 hours ago on a plane. Yeah, my next one, we haven't announced it yet because we don't have a title. That's the only reason. My next book was going to be called Frozen, but it's a retelling of the Snow Queen, which so few people know the Snow Queen. Will you get this?
And that was his question too.
Oh, was it? Okay.
I got your back.
Thank you.
Katie's lying. Even though she's wearing brown. Snow Queen, what was I saying? Hang on. This is why I can't, I don't know how you...
People don't read it.
No, people don't know the Snow Queen. The Snow Queen is also a Hans Christian Andersen fairy tale, and to be honest, I think on its own it is a stronger fairy tale than The Little Mermaid in terms of his work. And it's this really cool story, because what I really like about it is this girl, this Snow Queen comes down and steals this little girl's best friend, and he's not like her love interest. He's like just her best friend. And he steals her, and the little girl's like, oh, hell no. And she goes after him on like this adventure, and there's this like band of robbers, and there's one of the best characters in all of fairy taledom, this little robber girl who I absolutely love. The little robber girl is this girl the main character meets, and she's like a little bit psychotic. Like, she'll say things like, don't worry about my family of robbers, I'm not going to let them kill you. I mean, I'll kill you if I need to, but you don't need to worry about that. I'll do it myself. Probably not quick. She says things like that. But that's my next one that I'm working on. But yeah, it was going to be called Frozen, but Disney is releasing a Snow Queen retelling next year called Frozen. And even though I am totally a fan of retellings, obviously, Disney has taken out all of the best things about Snow Queen. It's really depressing. I read the plot. Now the girl and the boy go on the adventure together, which to me the cool part was the girl went alone. Like, that doesn't happen very often in fairy tales. So the girl and the boy go on the adventure together, and there's no little robber girl, not one. And what else is different about it? And the Snow Queen's like her sister / Kristen Chenoweth, I think. I don't know. I'm not very excited about it. I'm sad. But now I have to change my title, and I can't think of one. Every one I come up with either sounds like a vampire book or a dirty romance. Like, we're going around like frozen heart, colder heart, bitten heart. Wait. Like, that we can't come up with. Yeah, we're stuck. If you've got one, email me. Let me know. Anyone else? In the back?
When did you first start writing?
When did I first start writing? Well, my poem years, I call it my color period. I first started writing I wanted to start writing novels when I was about 8 or 9, somewhere in there, and I remember we had Windows 3.1 on the family computer. Yeah. Awesome. It was awesome at the time. It was Oregon Trail and Word. You don't need anything else, okay? Like, that's it. Like, oh, we have dysentery, then I'm going to go write a book. So that was the first time I tried writing a sort of a novel-length work. I think I got 8 pages in, and I didn't really understand a lot about copyright law, so some of those pages were songs from Beauty and the Beast. But the first time I wrote a novel-length work, I was in high school. I think I was probably a freshman or a sophomore when I started working on it. And I finished it when I was a senior, and then I rewrote it when I was in college, and it's still really bad. It's like a crap novel. That's why it's not published. People are like, are you going to go back to it? I'm like, no. No. Have you read it? No. Oh, no. Yeah, it's not very good. So yeah, I'm not going to go back to it. If that was the next question, I'll just go. I should give these to you. Yeah.
Is there any book that you started writing but never actually finished?
There are a few. There was, I do NaNoWriMo every year, which is National Novel Writing Month. You write a novel in 30 days. I was about to say 50 days, but that would be too easy. You write a 50,000-word novel in 30 days. And So there were a few that I started for that, and then I abandoned. There was a ghost story, actually, and a lot of that ghost story became As You Wish.